Welcome to the SDC podcast. We are going live. Hopefully everything is going on time. Do some page refreshing. Today we will be talking about PTSD, PTSI, and how to cope with it. Pretty timely issue to be talking about. Merry Christmas. We're entering into the Christmas week, and well, I guess you guys are the ones that are experts on this.
We're just going to see how long it took you to keep on that introduction.
I could have kept going.
He was bailing out early.
Right.
He pulled the reserve chute, folks.
Right. Forgot to attach the main line, but good on you for jumping out the door.
Yeah.
I promise you that. But Dusty and I have been talking this week, and we felt kind of obligated to help. We're not the only ones. I hope it's not somber on here, but I know Dusty and I have kind of had some mixed feelings about the holidays and this week, and we felt it was important to discuss how to cope with the holidays. And many of us have many reasons to not enjoy them, whether it be childhood trauma, family drama, or just plain missing the action. What say you, Dusty? What say you? What do you say?
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's like what we were talking about is just, some people call them facing your demons, working with the demons and battling them. But it seems like around the holidays, those quote unquote demons have reinforcements, because everything is so happy and cheerful, and all we can tend to think about is what's not. And no, it's been a rough week in my line of work. It's always rough with social work and working in foster care. Seems like everything blows up around Christmas time, so you've got that added stress. The added stress of, did my wife buy the right presents for the kids? I'll be honest, I'm as surprised as the kids are when they open the presents from me.
I think my own kid sent me a meme this week. It was just like that, and it was a little cartoon of where the dad was just as excited as the kids.
Yeah, oh yeah, and that's why they can ask me all day long, what did you get me? Well, I'm not saying, because I have no idea. We'll find out together.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah. And it's just the knowing who's not here, and it doesn't matter if you've had childhood stress, it doesn't matter, or childhood trauma, if it doesn't matter if you've had deployments, doesn't matter if you're first responder, even if you've lost anybody that you've been close to, holidays are rough. Came back from Iraq in 2009, 11 years. Yeah, it's still every Christmas I think, what would so-and-so have been doing? Which marriage would so-and-so have been on by now? And it's one of those things where it's tough. And then losing people as time goes on. We've talked about suicide on here, and that is, a topic that people don't want to talk about, but that is reality. And when you deal with any type of trauma, it makes the happy times not very happy. And especially and I heard was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about the suicide rate in America was its highest at 23 people per, I think, 100,000 or something like that during the Great Depression. And currently right now those numbers are starting to climb because of the COVID, the shutdown, the uncertainties, what are we going to do next? I know here in Michigan, we've to the government's mandates, and not saying anything political, but just stating the fact, a lot of people don't know if they're going back to work after the first year. What are we going to do with kids in school? What are we going to do? And those questions are building up. So they're trying to force themselves to have a great time for the family when inside it's this constant struggle that we're dealing with. And yeah, that creates stress in and of itself without the stress of, okay, how am I going to provide for my family? Are we going to have a Christmas dinner? I've talked to plenty that certain organizations have been helping out, and they're like, if it wasn't for this, I don't know what I would do.
Right. And it seems like every day I hear of another local business that's going out of business, or at least shutting down until these mandates go off or come off. And I'd read a statistic that 32% of Michigan's small-owned businesses have closed. And I can't imagine owning one of those businesses. And I believe we talked about it on here before, about one of the greatest things that veterans have done, have become entrepreneurs. And I'm just curious now, when you start combining the holiday blues, if you will, the grief that we endure from losing loved ones or remembering loved ones and friends during the holidays, and even on a good year, finances are always a struggle around the holidays, because a lot of times we don't know when to shut it off or how much is too much for the kids, or things like that. And it is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of stressful time, and a lot of people are saying, well, just it doesn't do any good to worry about it, just forget about it. And I'll be the
If
first
it were
one to
that
admit, I
easy, there'd
can't.
be a lot.
Yeah.
I'd have amnesia real quick.
I wish.
I'd wake up, kids would walk in. Who the heck are you?
Right. Yeah. And I just, it is a troubling time. And I think one of the worst parts about holiday grief or holiday blues is the fact that it's supposed to be a happy time, but here you are kind of slumming along as a grump, trying to be happy for everyone else.
Or not trying to. I mean, it's just a lot of times you've gone through, as veterans, first responders, I'm sure, you're going through the call after call, the trauma, the memories, that you're just, why try? I've been reading a new book now that my master's is done. Today is actually the official day that I end, and I've got
Congratulations.
I've got about 4 hours before my class officially ends. Everything's been turned in, but so I've been reading a book, Once a Warrior, Always a Warrior. The author is a retired Colonel Charles Hodge. He was in the Army. No, I don't know who he is. And
wait, hold on. Are you telling me that not everybody in the Army knows everybody else? Who in the
no, there's a few that miss here and there. But it's like, my wife's from Canada. Oh, so so and so that lives at no, it's not that small. But a First Sergeant Mike Schindler, again, don't know who he is, but he says there's no substitute for the experiences of combat and the excitement of a war zone. Yes, excitement of the war zone, excitement of the call for the first responders, excitement of what you're going through. Combat is an adrenaline-fed, high-speed whirlwind, tiger on the loose, exhausting daily dose of life and death. To think that you won't react, feel, behave, and think differently than before your tour of combat duty, or for first responders before you became a first responder, is, of course, incorrect. Your experiences in combat will forever be a part of you. Allow those combat experiences and knowledge to become your strength. Easier said than done, yes. But what we don't realize is that we want this to go away. I want to forget most of what happened over there. But the fact is, I do miss the excitement. I do miss that rush of adrenaline. I mean, 36-hour mission, you're sleeping, and some Iraqi guys well, what we would call a garage or a shed. They call a house. And, you've got your guard rotations while you're waiting for the time to kick off, and you're hiding here before the mission goes. And it's just that constant, okay, what's next? What's next? When your pager goes off for the fire department and it's your tones. Hey, all right, what do we got? It's like I think you said in one of our other podcasts, oh, it's just a brush fire. Or, hey, this is a good one. This is the real one. Let's go. This is because we miss that feeling of importance. We miss that mission. And right now, around the holidays, we don't have a mission. My wife's like we were joking around earlier. My wife buys the gifts, and I'm just as surprised as the kids what they're getting. So I don't have a mission to. My mission is to buy my wife's gifts, and it's easy. She gives me a list. As long as it's on the list, I'm good. One year I went off the list. It didn't go over well. I got her a pink Cabela's pistol handle Cabela's mug and chocolate ammunition in the form of 50 caliber rounds. And
I can't believe you actually did that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't married for 14 years at that time. Now, granted, my daughter was about a year old, and she ate the full box of chocolate ammunition. But we miss having that mission. We miss having that purpose. And that's why a lot of people, I feel, go from active duty into first responders. John, this is more your area of expertise, but it's like this first sergeant said, allow them to become your strength. And that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight, is how do we take what we feel is something that's wrong with us and turn it into something that we can actually use.
Yeah, I think right now the current statistic that I read this morning was 20%, 19 or 20% of all first responders are veterans. And, I can't remember if it was the beginning or the end of basic training when our drill instructor sat everybody down and actually cared to listen to hear where we were from or our names or, whatever.
Wait, and, you had one do that?
Yeah. It was, yeah. And, we were always curious as to why, why did you join? Was it because of something going on at home? And this is by no way a professional poll, but many of the things that I have seen was that a good majority of people joined the military to get away from home, not just to get out on their own, but because home was dysfunctional and broken, and this was a family that they knew they could trust. There were those that were picked on in school and felt that this was a way out to become a warrior, if you will, somebody that's not going to be bullied. There were some because it was their patriotic duty, and that's the naive, idiotic part that I fell into. And there were some that only joined just to get the education benefits. And for whatever reason, that people join, that's between you and your ever truthful recruiter. But you have to find.
They're out there too.
No, actually, I've said this before, but no. Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Burnt, back in 1997, 96 actually. I'm sure he's long since retired now, but very great guy and lovely family, and actually told me the honest to God truth. Unbelievable. So anytime somebody says something like that, I throw his name out there, that just so that he was the unicorn. And to top it all off, he was from security police / military police background, so kind of crazy.
There you go.
But it's important that whatever reason you join, whether it be the military, a fire department, a ambulance service, or law enforcement, you have to make sure number one, that you stay true to that, because, and this is just my opinion, is that when you, I'm going to just kind of elaborate on my background. So, veteran, fine, I did it for patriotic duty. I didn't think my family was broken and dysfunctional until I got older. Then I realized everybody's is dysfunctional on some level. And I ended up started my career as a corrections officer, because I thought I could help those behind bars, and it was a noble career, a noble job. I never intended for me to become a road patrol officer. It was never a stepping stone for me. I just happened to uh, try and do my best wherever I'm located. And at some point, shortly after I found out I was getting divorced, I decided, you know what, this is what I want to do. And again, it came down to I want to help people. Before, when I started as a corrections officer, I wanted to help inmates. Wanted to help them, be a witness to them, to realize that life doesn't have to be the way they see it. Because many times we find that these are just generationals. I can think of one time in particular where a grandfather, a father, and a son were all in the holding cell together, and that says a lot. It's like, what the heck is wrong with that family that all three of them are in here? And I believe it was on the holidays.
That's what they know.
Exactly. It's what they embrace, it's what they know. Well, after a full career in the military, what I do know is helping people. And I've started a few endeavors. I started first with the SISM team and the first responder support team, helping my brothers and sisters. Then through our connections, you and I hooked up, and now we're helping our brothers and sisters in a different realm.
Yep.
And to help me cope with the holidays, my wife she's far better at this than I
Usually
am. She always,
they are.
yes, I will give her full props for that. She usually does something, kind of in a memorial of one of her past family members. Um, whether it's a charitable donation to a family to help kids get through college, or I think this year she helped pay an electric bill or whatever. I don't know how she comes across these things, but she does. And this year, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm reaching out to some families that this COVID has hit hard, whether they have had it and were off work, or were off work because of COVID sanctions, and then they go back to work, and now they have it, so they're off work again. Some of these families have been going, a month, 2 months without paychecks, and if there's any kind of work in between there, they don't qualify for assistance. So, I am putting together some meal boxes for some families, single parents with their kids, so that they can have Christmas meals. And I mentioned that before because when I was a child, talking about how broken my family was, my stepfather was an alcoholic. Um, for a good number of years, he never ate any food. He couldn't tolerate just the stomach, real food. He just drank. And so this local pastor of the church that my mom dragged me to, that I didn't realize would be an heavy influence in my life later as an adult. The pastor there was also on the same fire department and ambulance service that I'm currently on. And he delivered a box of food for us to have Christmas dinner, and I didn't know that we wouldn't have had it had he not dropped it off. So I'm kind of repeating that cycle. I think we talked about this last show.
Yeah.
I'm repeating that cycle. Go ahead, Jared. I see you're looking to question him.
Yeah, we titled the episode "Coping with PTSD and PTSI." So, to kind of wrap that into our title, is this kind of a way of you coping with, a PTSI that you didn't even know that you had? I mean, growing up, getting the food donation box as a kid, you didn't even know about this, and you've talked about it before. Uh, could this kind of pay it forward be a type of coping mechanism?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It truly can. And like I said, it's finding that purpose, is how can I help somebody? Sometimes you have to think out of the box. No pun intended on that, but you have to think outside of the box of what can you do. Specifically, there are things that when I feel the holiday setting in, which is shortly after Thanksgiving, um, where I have to sit down and I force myself to listen to Christmas music. And when you force yourself to do it, you can't help but get into a kind of a good mood after listening to it. But there are things that I have to do. I have to force myself to do a random act of kindness. And when I say you force yourself to do it, because like today, perfect example, my wife went to church. I did mine earlier in the morning, and we're two different denominations. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I knew that if I didn't get up and go do something, my butt was going to stay in that couch the rest of the day until 7 o'clock. And I knew that that's not where I wanted to be. That's not what I wanted to do. And I could have went to the gun range with my son and shot his new gun for him. And I could have done this and I could have done that. And instead, I asked him, do you want to go to the gym instead? And we did. We went to the gym for about an hour and a half. We had a great workout together. And that was something that I had to force myself to do. And even with the acts of kindness, you find yourself, it's just like working out. The first day, the first act of kindness really kind of sucks. You got to take some emphasis. You have to do this, right? And then as the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Now, I was not able to attend the Wreaths Across America yesterday, and I felt like crap for it. That's the first one I missed in several years. And, that's a random act of kindness that I consider to be close to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I encourage all of you, when we say we want to help people, that's a random way to do it, whether it's buying a gift card, a fuel card, or something, something as simple as, a card from Speedway and just giving it to somebody. I had someone do that to me recently, and, it turned a really kind of crappy day into you know what? I don't even know this guy. I tried refusing the gift card, and, he just wouldn't do it, all because I had a thin blue line license plate on the front of my truck. So he knew I was an officer, and it just, it becomes easier the more you do it. And that's one of the ways I cope with the holidays.
But you mentioned it there really well, is you had to force yourself. If we don't start out forcing ourselves with these coping mechanisms, especially for the holiday blues, the holiday demons, the whatever you want to call them, if you don't force yourself, you're not going to. And that's the big thing there. And we've got one from, I see Bob Sturza made a comment. I know him. He I don't know if he'd say he knows me, but
he did say hi.
Just reading it.
So I mean he's admitting something.
Yeah.
Screenshot.
He says, "What would you say to the frontline staff at the hospitals fighting COVID?" And yeah, it's wow. I mean, that is such a tough one, because you're seeing the families drop off at the door and can't come in. You're dealing with people who are coming in and scared out of their mind because they don't know if they're coming in forever, for a little bit. I mean, COVID hits people in so many different ways.
Right.
Just as a little example of how it hits is, my sister got COVID down in North Carolina, was over it in I think a week and a half. My brother-in-law got it, and he's still on oxygen, and you're talking we're 6-7 weeks out on him right now. And then I think my nephew got it, and he was done in a week. So I mean, they come in with these serious symptoms, and they don't know what they're going to do. And I'm sure he's dealt with all sorts of the spectrum with it. But I think I'm kind of waiting for John to jump in here, because your wife is in that fight as well. I mean, that's pretty close to home for you.
It is something that I, we don't. I don't want to say we're afraid
I
of it.
gave you enough time to
We take our precautions.
think of it. Come on.
I know. What are we talking about? No, just kidding. We take our precautions. She very much is on the front line. She specifically deals with oncology. But since the hospitals are so full, she is getting COVID patients. She's had COVID patients for several months now. The hospital did have to open up a new wing. Their numbers are right full. And
And when we're talking hospital, I mean, she's in a smaller city hospital. She's not in like Troy
right,
Beaumont
right.
or anything like that, right?
A local Tri-City
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
And they're full. And the only thing that we can do, I guess, is to take our precautions, just like they say. At work, she wears the full garb and, washes her hand. And in fact, I had to end up buying her early Christmas present of one of those, medical grade rubber wedding rings because the amount of alcohol that they're going through on their hands, her hands are just breaking out and can't really take the wear of her real wedding ring. And quite honestly, it is tiring because we are from a small enough or an area that she is seeing the patients that she knows on the outside.
Yeah.
She sees some that are making it, some that are not. And I've always, it seems quite a few of my loved ones are going into the medical field or are in the medical field. I have a niece of mine that works in a old folks home, and my heart goes out to them because that's a tough enough job already that you only do that job because you have compassion for people. It certainly isn't because of the pay and the fact that you love extended overtime. It's because you have compassion for the people in there. And for many of them, they are the only family that they will see. Christy is a friend of mine. She owns her own old folks home, two of them, I believe, and they do events because they're not able to see their families. So I can't imagine the burden on our healthcare workers to not only be something to someone in the hospital that needs it because they may not have support system, but to also still be mom or dad at home. And it's during this time that they've definitely earned my respect as just that, a frontline worker. Many times we don't give them the respect they deserve, but during a pandemic, it is amazing to see them get up and go to their job every day. And even my correction officer friends, we have a number of inmates in our jail now that are COVID positive, and you work closely with these inmates. You take what precautions you can, but ultimately you're going back home to your family every night. And so anyone that's in a closed facility with COVID positive patients, my hat goes off to you, and know that the patients, I'm certain, respect that and appreciate that, as well as their families. And I can't imagine the stress that those families are going through these holidays without their loved ones being home, but yet not even being able to see them.
And while you're saying all that, I'm just thinking of the stress of, not that the hospital workers have a set schedule, like they know what they're going to deal with today.
Right.
But even more so now, they don't know if somebody's going to turn worse if they're. I've talked to some that they've said that they had to send the messages from the families to the final goodbyes because there was just nothing that they could do, and the stress from dealing with that all day and then coming home and having like a kind of a micro explosion of anger because we only have so much we can hold with stress. Just like imagine a bucket and you're just pouring water into it and that's your stress. Eventually, even if you're going a slow drip, it will get full and it's going to overflow.
Right.
And it overflows close to it. So that's going to be where, yeah, and Bob Sturza just said it's horrible to see the stress and anguish on the staff's faces. And you know that they're taking that home, not intentionally, not because, there is no cool down, because when you go home, if you turn the news on, it's right there. Isn't it CNN that has the counter on constantly? I mean, it's like, it's right. If you turn that on, it's there. There's nothing you can do to get away from it.
And they're even going home realizing that they've been exposed to it and could be exposing their family members as well. So
and you could get a test every day, but the next day you could be, hey, I've got a negative result. It takes 4 days now, and for some of them, and it's so here you are stressing about it. Well, do I have it? Do I not have it? Do I stay at work? Do I stay home? I'm in a multi-generational home. My parents moved in with us, and I worry about it all the time. The only place I go is to work, because if I bring it home, there has that potential. And just having that stress, and it's like, we're getting all the stress, so now what do we do with it? And the book I was reading, I want to get your ideas on it. One of the skills they say, it's a trauma survivor skill, is, a lot of times we have reactions. I know I have reactions with my kids, with my family, that I don't want to have. But becoming more aware of your reactions, and this book suggests writing it down. I know the journals don't always work for everybody, but just to see and recognize, okay, your reaction, and this is going to lead to something later on before we're done, but your reaction is not the cause because your son, daughter, spouse, brother, sister, family, mom, dad, whoever did that action that made you upset. That's not the thing that made you upset. That just happened to be that last drop in the bucket when it started overflowing.
Right.
I want to get your take on it from the first responders aspect.
Well, yeah, it's difficult. As first responders, we talk about this. It can be one incident that causes the PTSI, or it could be the reoccurring incidences over the span of a career. When we're not taught how to process the stressors, and the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions that come from a traumatic incident, and it may be traumatic only to you versus another person, but when it's a reoccurring trauma or a cumulative trauma, you have this trauma, and then you add, this trauma, and then you add this trauma, and then you add this trauma. One of the instructors I had, she would always bring a backpack to class.
I was kind of waiting to see
and
how many things you had on your desk.
You don't want to see that, but she would bring a backpack to class, and she would bring bricks, and she'd put a brick in there for each stressor that you may encounter. And at some point, you can't pick up that backpack unless you're infantry. Then you just pick it up and go. But even that, there's even a weight that backpack can sustain or can hold. So at what point do you deal with it? Well, it's unfortunately usually at the breaking point. We don't pay attention to it until it becomes too heavy, or until we break.
Exactly.
So I think there are a lot of things, right?
And you just, you've got that. I go back to the question that I was asked in high school. I forget which teacher it was, but they said, "What's heavier?" It's one of those trick questions: a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers. And so many people would be like, "Oh, a ton of bricks is a lot heavier than the feathers." No, it's just a bigger amount. A ton is still a ton, no matter what the item is that you're weighing, and it doesn't matter. Sure, we can take a lot of stress. We're built for it, but we're only built to handle this much. Once we start getting over our stress that we're working, that we can handle, now you're starting to mess with certain things in our brain. Chemicals are changing. Amygdala's reacting wrong. Those that are better with the brain parts than I am, but they pretty much. I've always taught that your brain is like a fist, and the frontal cortex is getting messed up and that's where our filter's at, because it's not allowing the stress to go somewhere. It's just holding there, and it doesn't matter how much stress you've endured. Eventually, it's going to be too much.
Right.
And those that say, "Well, I can leave work at work and home at home," I worry about them, and I worry about their families, because I thought that for a while. I thought, yes, I can leave work at work, and when I come home, nope, it's done. That hat's off, and now I'm a dad. No, I was blind to my own ignorance, and it's and then we have the reactions of stress, and when you get that reaction, that secondary trauma to your family, and you realize it, then we get guilt, we get shame, we get mad at ourselves.
Right.
We get more intense in our stress, not to them, but at ourselves. But we can't yell at ourselves. It doesn't have that same feeling. It doesn't have, the chemicals aren't firing. We can go out to the shed, the garage, whatever, and yell that way, but we don't handle it well. And that's skill number 2 that I was looking at reading today, was learn to accept your reactions, but accept them without judgment or anger. That is probably the hardest thing of these skills that I was reading today, because as soon as we have that reaction, my wife, she'll tell me, "Don't get mad," and then I know, okay, I'm already mad about something. What is it? I know I'm not mad about this situation because she's telling me not to get mad, so it's not that big of a deal. But I made it into that deal. And then I get mad at myself. And then it could lead to other things. And Bob's commenting again that they've lost staff that could just not do it. I mean, absolutely. No doubt about that. And because you can't handle that much stress. I mean, now that McDonald's is about to go 15 an hour, what?
Right. As you're already, it's already a stressful job, but then you throw on all of these extra things. I know for a fact my wife's hospital has also lost many nurses, specifically in the emergency room. And just real quick, I'm just curious if Bob, it sounds like he works in the hospital, or at least has close connections there. I'm just curious if his hospital has started to introduce therapists to their staff. That is something that my wife's hospital has just started doing, realizing that many are just leaving.
We've only been at this 10 months, I guess. Better late than never.
Yeah.
Well, in about 3 or 4 years ago, my wife's hospital had, I believe it was 8 suicides within a month. And it took like literally an act of God for them to realize, I wonder why, before they started looking into it. So I'm just curious. I'm hoping that, in a stressful situation like this, who's really battling, like we said, some of these nurses have the same thoughts and feelings that we do.
But they're not,
they have more in-depth.
Allowed to say anything.
Correct. So you're seeing this virus affect someone in a way that, okay, they're just tired. That's how a friend of mine described it. She's like, I had mono, basically. I was just tired. Couldn't get off the couch.
Yeah.
Her and her daughters had it, and her husband lives with her, and he never got it. I have a coworker that him and his wife and one son have it, and the other son's never had it.
Yeah.
Still, and then you have some people that are dying from it, some that are on life support and come back healthy. It's something that they're unfortunately having to learn on the fly.
And they're having to. One thing I realized not too long ago, is they're having to, in all technicality, break their own oath. Everybody in the
Yes.
medical community has made an oath to service, to take care of, to not turn a patient away. And they said we're forced to turn people away, that if this was normal circumstances, they would be in the ICU right now.
Right.
But they, at 140% capacity, I believe, at one point, maybe Bob could correct me, he wrote on there that Covenant in Saginaw, where he works, had the most COVID patients in the state. And maybe they were the one, but when you're at 80% capacity to a staff that's already down, I mean,
Right.
could your work, we're not going to say the name of where you work in law enforcement, but could they use a couple extra guys for each shift?
My gosh, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
And it's like they've got every medical field, every first responder field could use the help, but it's just not there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, who in their right mind would want to enter into that field is what somebody's asked me, I think 2-3 weeks ago, was like, who in their right mind would want to go in the medical field right now?
Right. Well, we're asking that ourselves in law enforcement right now. Right now, Delta College has the smallest law enforcement academy that they've ever had, 11. And out of those 11, 2 of them are already employees of a law enforcement agency, and they're being sponsored. So really, you only have 9 students that have went through the criminal justice education and are going to be officers. 9.
So I could be in the top 10 if I joined.
Run by,
right.
When I went there, they were constantly running by us. There's always a really large group.
Yes, you know, I believe we started with 38, and we finished, I think, with 32. And this class started with 11. So
well, at least you have a good chance to be in the top 10 of your class. Isn't that always impressive?
Right.
Sucks to be the 11th guy.
Right.
But you know,
it is tough. I'm just, it's tough for everybody. We're 5 officers short on our roster. We have no people asking for applications. We have no bullpen, if you will, of applicants that we can say, hey, we have a position. Would you like it? We were hoping to possibly bring some from the correction side over to the road patrol, and for various reasons that has not worked. And an idea that I've been kicking around is, how do you get people interested in law enforcement? At some point, Michigan is very stringent on law enforcement officers.
Yep.
It's one of the best in the nation, quite honestly. And when you are certified in the state of Michigan, you can almost go anywhere in the United States and they'll recognize your credentials automatically. With that being said, how many folks do you know that wanted to be law enforcement but never could for various reasons? They maybe had an inopportune pregnancy in their early life, maybe had to take a job and couldn't go to college, because here in the Michigan, we are required to have a college degree to become law enforcement, unless you are a state trooper, pun. But those are very tough things that we're going to have to start thinking outside of the box to get people into here. Somebody that wants to be an officer, not somebody that, well, I did my 4 years or my 2 years and I'm going to be an officer. Somebody that truly, wants that opportunity to succeed. I think we're going to have to really look outside the box. And for those people, we're going to have to teach them the same things that we wish we know now, is how to process the stress and how important a support system is in your life.
Just don't get too far,
because when we talk
outside the box, where you read them their Miranda rights and hand them an application.
Right. Well, never mind. There may be a large agency in the state of Michigan that their leader is appointed, not elected, that may be doing that. But You know, when we talking about when you were talking about earlier about how we respond to things, um, you know, I don't know about you, but I've been known to stress eat.
Oh
I've
yeah,
been known to
yeah.
maybe dabble in some drinks every now and then, and you know those things can come up during the holidays. You know, because
That's why
I
skill
do live.
5 is just for you. I'm waiting
Right.
for.
Bring it to me, buddy. We're running out of
We're
time, but
running out of
bring
time.
it to me.
We're gonna have to get to the skills.
Um, but yeah, the learn to accept your reactions without judgment or anger. I think is probably the biggest one that I wanted to talk about. Um, because once you start learning how to respond and not getting and you know, if I saw my wife was on here earlier, if she's on here, um, she's definitely going to be commenting because I am one that gets mad at myself. I mean, I had a reaction today. Fridge door open and I was getting some out and I turned like that and she was right there and I didn't. No, it was not the cupboard door.
I was wondering.
For those of you that don't know, listen to the first podcast. And she was right there, and I, you know, the fist was up, and I got mad because this is
Right.
my wife. 14 years I've talked into staying with me. So, and you know, this is supposed to be my teammate, and here I almost swung because you know she wasn't there when the door opened. It wasn't open long. She was there when it closed.
She's
And
making sure you weren't drinking out of the bottle.
Right.
she should
My
have been on
wife
the
is
other side
really
of the door.
impressed. Yeah, my wife is really impressed when she comes around the corner and I've got the orange juice like quarter cocked.
Yeah, and I got mad at myself because this is somebody that I love, and you know, so overcoming that obstacle is a skill that I know I work on daily. The next one is improve physical conditioning and relax muscle tension. If you don't get skill 2, skill 3 is going to be hard because
Right.
you're going to always be on edge. You're going to be worried about, well, how am I going to respond? If I'm going to walk through that door, there's been times I stood at a doorway because I thought maybe my son might be trying to jump out at me. He's at that age of 8 that he loves scaring. Every so often we'll hear screams and then laughing and running, and probably his sister whacking him on the head with something because he likes to scare people. And I've stood at that thing because I'm like, I'm going to wait him out because I don't want to have that negative reaction because I know what it'll do to me.
Right.
So you can't calm down.
You know,
Skill 4. Oh, go ahead.
quick, I want to hit on that.
Yep,
Sorry.
yep.
Yeah, you know, I've talked about being married twice, and I've got 3 older children and 2 younger ones. And one of the things as I started going to counseling for my PTSI and assessing my reactions and how things in life have affected me, I can tell you the exact time where one of my reactions caused my child to look at me in fear.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, I can tell you that my father, my biological father, left my mother after he had a reaction, a flashback from Vietnam. And, you know, I won't go into details, but it was something he could not live with, and he left and never came back for like another 15, 20 years. And, you know, to see your child, you know, something that you prayed for, something that you yearned for and longed for, you would give your life for, to look at
And
you
you're
in
still wondering why
fear.
they're around, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, but that disheartening feeling when they look at you in fear instead of that love, you know, your father, your dad, your daddy, you know, my 18-year-old daughter still calls me daddy, you know, when she's having a bad day, she still calls me. She would still climb on my lap. But you know what? I remember the first time my child looked at me in fear, and that can ruin a man or woman.
Yeah.
That ruins a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got similar ones. I know we're our time's cutting low, but I've got similar stories as well that maybe we'll share later on. But it's just you can't relax, and our body not relaxing leads to skill 4 is improvement of sleep. Um, Anybody who knows a veteran or anyone who's tied to the veteran community, it doesn't take long before they can find somebody that's having sleep
Right.
issues. For those of you that know me, I'm one of them. Um, and I'm positive. I'd put money on that you can find it in first responders. You can find it at the hospitals. Even
Absolutely.
before COVID,
Mhm.
anybody that's on that, what we call the front line. Um, and the last one is learn how alcohol or drugs affect your reactions. We've, I think, I don't think John was on for that one, but we did the one about how substance use would affect, or at least we touched on. I can't remember if you were on it or not, but alcohol just, we go back to the brain analogy. The frontal lobe is our filter. It's our, this is a bad idea part of our brain. And when we start taking substance use, and it doesn't matter, alcohol, cocaine, I mean, you can go off on the list.
Right. Cigarette,
Any of those,
tobacco, pornography, all of it.
once you're, um, once your addiction is, I don't want to use the word settled, but once that limit is met, the frontal part of your brain shuts down. That's why you've got all these memes on Facebook that say, "Here, hold my beer," and it's somebody
Right.
doing something stupid. Um,
Right.
and so learning how it, and I'm not here to say alcohol's bad. I'm not here to say drugs are bad. I'm here to say, uh, just learn how it affects you and get the help you need. Because if you're having to sit there and say, well, is this affecting what I'm doing? Chances are you probably need to start talking to somebody before something major comes up. Now,
Absolutely.
that's not to say that everybody that drinks is drunk and coping. No, there's some people that can drink and it doesn't bother them at all. And I think you've testified to that in the past. Um, but these are just some skills that I was reading, getting ready for tonight, and it's just the one thing that I can stress is a social support system. This
Absolutely.
is the time
Mhm.
where we're supposed to be around family, and due to whatever state you're in or country, um, follow what they say, what they recommend. We may not be with our family, so we're missing that social connection. So um, reach out to us, Warriors Hope. I know we've mentioned others in the past that just aren't coming to mind. There's an app called Objective Zero for veterans mainly. Reach out to people on there. I'm one of the um, counselors on that, and there's people on here on this app countrywide that will sit there and talk. I've talked to people for 2 or 3 hours at night. um, it's our way of coping, but it's also a way that we could say, hey, somebody's going to sleep tonight. Maybe they're not
Right.
healed, but they're better than they were when they reached out. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, force yourself. I liked what you said, John, about today. You forced yourself to do something, and it's gonna, if you're in these, you know, Christmas blues, um, force yourself to go do something that requires time and effort, um,
Yeah.
which is even as simple as picking up the phone,
Right.
um, and get out there and stay active. And because if you're not, the stress is just going to
Correct.
build. You're just you're just going to be thinking on that stress, be thinking on those times, and that's going to create further issues and further stress down the line.
Yeah. Absolutely. The support system is critical. I always like to have an accountability partner. You know, I think you and I kind of hit that off.
Yeah.
You know, hey, what's going on? You're quiet. You all right? Yep, I'm good. And we can talk it out. You know, people that start New Year's resolutions. Yes, Jared, I'm looking at the clock too. People that start New Year's resolutions, you know, that, hey, did you go to the gym today? You know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just encourage everyone to reach out, force yourself to get through this, and, you know, have a good holiday. Enjoy your family, and heal yourself. But, Jared?
Wake up.
I mean, I guess you guys kind of said it all, right? I mean, no, actually, Dustin, if you could run down those 5 key points
Yes.
again, real quick, just so we've got a good wrap up.
Yep.
Because I know we've had a lot of great discussion on each one of them. So go ahead, please.
Again, the book is Once a Warrior, Always a Warrior, by a retired Colonel Hodge. It's his life survival skills. And skill 1, become more aware of your reactions by writing about them, or in other ways that you're able to discuss them, talk to somebody about them. Learn to accept. Skill 2, learn to accept your reactions without the judgment or fear. And the key is the judgment or fear, because we can accept our reactions, but we'll always try to judge ourselves. In skill 3, improve physical conditioning and relax muscle tension. Skill 4, improve sleep. And that includes, I didn't mention, but that includes going to your doctor and saying, hey, I'm just having trouble. I need something just to get me back, and see what they recommend. Skill 5, learn how alcohol and drugs affects your reactions.
Very good.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, I mean, this is all about coping, and I think those are great. That's a great step program to go through. Five is a pretty normal list for a lot of things to be able to go
Yeah.
through and
I only have
be organized.
to count on one hand,
Right.
so it works out great. I start getting confused if I have to go to a left hand.
And remember, I mean, this show was started as a coping mechanism as well. And let's
Oh, yeah.
let's hope
Yep.
that let's stay into our positive coping.
Yes.
And talk it out. So this is our last show for the year, right? I didn't
Think so.
Yes.
Yep.
let's look at the
Yep.
calendar.
Nope.
Yep.
We want everybody who's listening. We want you to come back next year. So
Yes.
everybody have a good holiday, and come back and listen to us again. We've got a couple of guests on the line.
Yeah.
Coming
Yep.
up in the next few months
And
that we're really excited about having.
we'll be a guest on another podcast that's kind of helped us figure this out too. So,
Right.
and
January 16th.
16th.
Mark your calendars.
Yep. And we'll put that. We'll talk more about that later, and
Yep.
At the next one, and give the link and all that.
Yep.
So, I'm excited for what the New Year's bringing, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we can start doing these in person again.
Right.
Right.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
It's been
Christmas.
fun.
Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all again. Our information is online. Come find us if you're having a hard time during these holidays.
Yep.
Thank you all for listening.